Hello. Welcome back to your STEP classes. These are 6 half-hour info sessions for young people and others that cover development, behavior, adolescence, risks, distress, and the ACE study. It's science that explains people. This is session 5, distress management, and we're going to take a look at the relationship between distress and mental health, plus quick fixes for daily life and different temperaments. It's presented by the Kansas Traffic Safety Resource Office. By the way, a few beginning slides are repeated every session. It's just a few. They'll be over soon. And this is one of them. Welcome. These sessions were designed for teens, but everyone else is welcome. We think everyone should know how different the risks are for teens. I'm your narrator, Karen Williams. This is my message to teens. Please forgive me. I'm going to speak about you and your brains as if you were not in the room. It's often easier that way when others are also in the room. For instance, on some slides, I will use they and their instead of you and your, or often I will just refer to teens. As we learned in session 4, across the developed world, teens are at a far greater risk of 3 things: traffic deaths, mental health problems, and addiction than all other populations. To accurately measure your risks, you need information. Session 4 dealt with traffic risks. This session deals with mental health, and we will learn about teens and addiction in session 6. The goal of this session is to help you understand the risks from distress that can affect the teen brain. And remember, the teen brain is being remodeled and it works differently. It's under construction. In fact, the stakes during the teen years are among the highest in all of brain development. The latest science shows that there are 75 major differences in the teen brain when compared with the adult brain, and these differences affect teens' lives in different ways. You, teens, cannot compare yourselves to adults because your brains and the rest of your bodies operate so differently, and those differences cause your risks to be different too. You are more sensitive to and are more affected by distress. And since one of the most distressful situations you'll encounter during your teen years is learning to drive, that explains why the Kansas Traffic Safety Resource Office is bringing you this series. Now let's talk about stress versus distress because they are different. Let's just be sure we're on the same page. Stress is not a negative. Think of stress as light. Some is essential for life, and light can actually save us. But too much light can be distressful and sometimes blinding, overwhelming, in other words, traumatizing. And you know the definition of trauma is being overwhelmed. Now, the difference between stress and distress is simple, so we're going to say it very simply. Some sun and some stress are both necessary for health. But too much sun or too much stress, in other words, distress, can endanger our health. Look, we may not be able to stop the sun's rays, but we can tame and manage their impact on us and reduce the risk for hurt and harm. And that's exactly what these sunglasses and umbrella are all about. So what other protective skills and habits do we have to tame and manage the impact of the sun's rays and reduce the risk for hurt and harm? You know, burns, blisters, future risks for skin cancer. Well, some people just limit their exposure to the sun, but others can't do that. In that case, we need sunglasses and sun hats and to slather on the SPF or use the strong stuff or cover up, and do this in cloudy weather as well. Why? Well, we can't stop the sun's rays, but we can tame and manage their impact and reduce the hurt and harm that they can cause. And we have lots of ways. Now, our survival instincts and reflexes are like the sun's rays. Our fight, flight, and freeze are like the sun's rays because we need them in our lives, but too much of them can endanger our mental, emotional, and behavioral health. So we need to learn how to tame and manage their impact on us and reduce the hurt and harm that they can cause in our lives. And we need as many of them as we have for protecting ourselves from the sun. Which brings us to a bit of a reminder. Nature and nurture. I think that's where we started this series. Nature is our DNA and genes, and nurture, that includes all the experiences we've ever had in our lives. And nature, our DNA and genes are all about survival, and nurture, all those experiences are about development. Okay? So it's survival plus development. But you know what? It can feel like survival versus development Because life is a balance beam, and it tips very easily, and what gets to it first tips it in its favor. And we need to understand that survival is always number one, and our survival instincts and reflexes are pre-wired before birth and are automatic, and they're going to get to the beam first, and they're going to weight it in their direction. So to survive in life, we must learn to tame and manage their impact on us. They must be tamed and they must be managed, and we must take back control of our balance beam. Now, the number one goal of nature, DNA and genes, is our survival, and the number one job of our brain is to OJ, to overreact and jump to conclusions, to act as if we still had saber-toothed tigers and T-Rexes among us, because it's on alert 24/7. Anything we perceive as threatening or distressing, whether it is or not, automatically triggers mental, emotional, and behavioral survival reflexes. There they are. They're our alarm system. But when a situation is not actually threatening, these reflexes can cause our behavior to appear out of control. Our automatic survival reflexes can throw us off balance, redirect our blood, oxygen, and energy, and automatically slow down and interfere with listening, memory, learning, and development. Look, our survival reflexes are always automatic and always first because they are our body's internal alarms. Now, we have fire alarms in schools, and we all know what to do when the alarms go off. It's what we do when we recognize our internal alarms have gone off that makes all the difference. And this session is about what we can do to tame and manage our survival reflexes and regain our mental, emotional, and behavioral balance. Which brings us to trauma, being knocked off the beam entirely. Now, trauma is an extreme state or condition of distress. And there are two kinds of trauma. Physical trauma, that's serious injury or alteration to the state or condition of the body. And mental, emotional, we call that psychological, and behavioral trauma. Serious injury or alteration to the state or condition of the mind and our reactions. Look, they're both overwhelmed. They're both traumatized. And we know we are supposed to stay balanced, but when life throws us a curveball, our fight, flight, and freeze can literally knock us off the beam. It can overwhelm us. It can traumatize us. Well, healthcare professionals have a handbook called the DSM-5, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, and it's number 5 because it's the 5th edition. Now, this handbook is used for diagnosing symptoms that can show whether or not our emotions, attitudes, thoughts, thinking, and behavior have become disorderly or disordered, knocked us off the beam. So, what's teens' risk for mental, emotional, and behavioral health disorders? Well, when teens' untamed, unmanaged survival reflexes take charge and overwhelm them, traumatize them, knock them off the beam, teens are at the highest risk for a disorder. And how do we know this? Well, a little over a decade ago, in 2009, the National Research Council did a report on youth and disorders, and this is what they found. Children and youth are most at risk for the following mental, emotional, and behavioral health disorders. Now, they started with affective disorders. Those are our mental and emotional disorders. And number 1, anxiety disorders, depression and other mood disorders, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And when that happens to you under age 14, it's usually called child traumatic stress. And these are the behavioral health disorders that children and youth are most at risk for. Conduct disorder, oppositional defiant disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, eating disorders, substance use disorders, self-harm disorders. This same National Research Council report showed that most mental, emotional, and behavioral health disorders have their roots in childhood and adolescence when the brain is still building and developing. In fact, they found that 75% of mental, emotional, and behavioral disorders in the United States begin prior to age 24. And 50% of them begin prior to age 14. Then they found that untamed and unmanaged survival reflexes, those that knock us off the beam, are linked to clusters of preventable mental, emotional, and behavioral health problems and disorders. That's why they named the report Preventing Mental, Emotional, and Behavioral Disorders Among Young People. Finally, they found when survival reflexes are ignored or punished, They can escalate into a disorder. But there was some good news. Symptoms, that's our fight, flight, and freeze, show up 2 to 4 years before reaching the criteria for a disorder, which means we have time to prevent the disorder. Now, we need a way to tame and manage our untamed, unmanaged survival instincts and reflexes so we can prevent and reduce trauma and prevent and reduce the mental, emotional, and behavioral disorders and the hurt and harm that trauma can cause in our lives. We need something to help us step over trauma. Which brings us to resilience and distress management. You know, the science shows us that it's not what happens to us that causes us problems. It is how we react, how we respond. And we know we're supposed to stay balanced, but when life throws us a curveball, we are first automatically out of balance because we are pre-wired for survival first. That's our natural alarm. But what comes next after the alarm can change everything. And that brings us to resilience. Now, resilience is the capacity of any system to deal with whatever difficulty life throws at it and to stay on the beam, to continue to keep its balance, and to continue to develop in spite of that difficulty. And this tree is a perfect example of resilience. Now, there are resilience enhancers, in other words, resilience strengtheners, and they're called protective skills and habits. They're kind of like shields, and that can protect us against both physical and biological distresses, like our own distress steroid cortisol, and also protect us against social and psychological. Those are our mental, emotional distresses from what life throws at us, like bullying, parental divorce, and social isolation. Our protective skills and habits that act like shields can help protect us from whatever life throws at us, help keep us on the beam, and help protect our mental, emotional, and behavioral health. They can strengthen our resilience, our ability to bounce back. Now that brings us to distress management. Distress management means that we have practiced a group of protective skills until they have become protective habits. Now, habits are learned reflexes. We have automatic reflexes, fight, flight, and freeze, but the habits that we learn, these learned reflexes, are actions taken without thinking as well, just like walking. Now, we couldn't walk. We learned to walk, and now if our legs work, we can walk without thinking because that is a habit. And we need the habits that are going to build our resilience so that we can protect our mental, emotional, and behavioral health. Now, the more of these habits that we have, the stronger we are. So having lots of resilience enhancers, in other words, lots of protective skills and habits, can build up our immunity to distress like booster shots. And regardless of the distressful situations we encounter, we can maintain our safety. We can stay on the beam and stay relatively balanced, not perfectly balanced, just relative balance will do it, so we can continue to learn and develop. But we have to ask ourselves, which one is in control? Which one is getting our blood, oxygen, and energy? Look, what we spend our time doing gets most of our blood, oxygen, and energy. And the more time we are out of balance, in other words, the more time that we are upset, the stronger our survival reflexes get. Now, we aren't able to choose our survival reflexes, but we can choose to build protective distress management skills and habits that can offset or tame or manage the negative impacts on our life that let us step over trauma and become more resilient, to have our resilience strengthened. But most of us need help to learn these skills and form these habits. Now, sometimes healthcare professionals may prescribe a patient an outside chemical, a medication, to aid him or her in taming and managing his or her survival reflexes. And mostly these are meds for pain, anxiety, and depression. And we call these medications psychoactive or psychotropic medications because they help tame and manage our survival reflexes and ease our physical and psychological discomfort. But at the same time we are taking these prescriptions, we need to be practicing our protective skills and habits to build our resilience so we can stop taking the medication and make it very short term. Now, a strong set of protective distress management habits can help us avoid and prevent trauma and the disorders that can follow. And these habits can help us get over trauma. But we need a set of protective skills and habits that, number one, meet our basic needs, are with us all of the time, that we can practice anytime we want, and that start to work immediately. Well, that's a big list to fill. But we have them. These are quick fixes for daily life and different temperaments. It's all about distress management. And these are the skills and habits that tame and manage our fight, flight, and freeze, and they build our resilience. They're resilience boosters. Now, I need you to remember that breath is our number one need. So we're going to talk about breathing. Now, breathing is with us all the time. That's its power. If we weren't breathing, we would not be here. So breathing's with us. And how we breathe manages our blood, oxygen, and energy, our survival reflexes, our biochemicals, including cortisol, our steroid, and our healing biochemicals, and our mood and memory and our ability to think and learn. You know, those are pretty important. But we can decide to breathe merely to survive, or we can breathe to thrive. It's our choice. Now, I'm going to say we're going to learn to breathe to thrive. It's a top-rated booster, resilience booster. And note, it is very different from just breathing to survive. Everybody breathes to survive. But you have to practice breathing to thrive. So this is rules for breathing to thrive. The number one rule about breathing to thrive: you are breathing to thrive only when you're using your diaphragm. It's called diaphragmatic breathing or belly breathing. It's therapeutic, which means to calm, heal, and restore. Okay, number two rule about breathing to thrive: breathing out longer than we breathe in calms us, builds our calming biochemicals, and boosts our resilience. You can't beat that. All right, two things: use your diaphragm, and to calm down, breathe out longer. That's it. So what does diaphragmatic belly breathing do for us? Well, it decreases the distress hormone cortisol and starts the flow of our calming chemicals, dopamine, oxytocin, and serotonin. It regulates our heart rate. It relaxes our muscles. It protects the immune system. It regulates our blood sugar. It calms survival reflexes and fear-based memories. It maintains digestion and elimination. It regulates your blood pressure. It regulates your sensitivity to pain. And it calms our MEG, triggers our hippo and our PFC. The brain loves it because it's just the opposite of cortisol. So find your diaphragm. And we know how to do this because we've done it before. When we extend our tongues, like when we say ah for the doctor, we immediately engage our diaphragm. Okay, keep your tongue in your mouth. Now pant very slowly. Ta-da! You're using your diaphragm. It took you less than 2 seconds to find it. Now, diaphragmatic breathing or belly breathing is the only thing that's going to keep us on the beam, okay? So, normal belly breathing is deep, slow, regular 4-second diaphragmatic breathing. You inhale for 4 seconds and you exhale for 4 seconds. In and out for 4 seconds. When it gets to the bottom, we're going to count it. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi. You got it? It immediately increases the flow of our healing biochemicals. It's wonderful. And when you're already calm, 4-second breathing keeps you calm. So if you're going to go into a stressful situation, regardless of whether it's pleasurable or, not, you want to do your belly breathing, 4 in, 4 out, many times before you go into a very difficult situation, because it will keep you calm during this situation. But if you're not calm, there are 3 stages to getting calm. And number 1 is do like the whale. Blow. Engage your diaphragm, put your tongue in the right place. Blow out softly from 7 to 11 seconds. So we're going to count it. We're going to do 11 seconds. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi, 6 Mississippi, 7 Mississippi, 8 Mississippi, 9 Mississippi, 10 Mississippi, 11 Mississippi. Didn't take long. You know what you just did? You stopped the flow of cortisol. You literally blow it out. And you start the flow of calming biochemicals. Now, a lot of people can't do it for 11 seconds, so they have to do it again until they can reach 11 seconds. But if you do it more than once, please do it seated, because you're changing your biochemistry and you can fall over. Okay, If you can't do an 11-second whale, you need to be building your supply of calming biochemicals. You can use any breathing exercise. This one works as well. And it's called the building breath. You engage your diaphragm, put your tongue where it needs to be, and do 1 second in and 2 seconds out and repeat that 4 times. Followed by 2 seconds in and 4 seconds out, and you repeat that 4 times. Followed by 4 seconds in and 8 seconds out, repeat that 4 times. And look, you are breathing out twice as long as you are breathing in. That's why it's calming you down. And it takes about 1.5 minutes to do this. Before you take a test, before you get in the car, before you start the car, do whatever. Now, you can do number 2 or number 3 right after you've done number 1. So it can be 1 and 2 or 1 and 3, and here comes 3. And by the way, when you're doing breathing exercises, do them sitting down because you're changing your biochemistry. And until you're used to doing them, they can really affect you. So let's go to 3. Store your calming biochemicals. This helps you not only build them, but store them up so that anything that happens during the day, you have some chemicals that are working for you and can protect you. This is 4x4 belly breathing. You engage your diaphragm, put your tongue where it belongs, and go clockwise around the square, starting at the top of the square. So you breathe in for 4 seconds. You hold it for 4 seconds. You blow it out for 4 seconds, and then you continue to release the breath without pressure, without blowing, for 4 seconds. You're breathing out for a total of 8 seconds in 2 stages. One, you're blowing it out, and the other, you're just letting it flow out. So I need to tell you something. 4x4 is not the same as box or boxed breathing. It is not like the type of breathing taught in the military. Do not hold your breath on the last 4 seconds. It's what the military wants you to do because they want you to have a little cortisol. Well, this is for a different purpose. You need to get rid of your cortisol. So do not hold your breath on the last 4 seconds. And to make sure you don't, you can talk or whisper, or you can say, I am okay, which is also a comforting thing and calms you down. Now, if you repeat this 4 times, it takes a bit more than a minute, 64 seconds. It's 16 seconds for each round, times 4, 64 seconds. That's great. So do it before you get in a vehicle or you start the vehicle. Or if you get, a little bit overwhelmed while driving, pull over in a safe place and do 4x4 until you're calm. And you'll do enough, if you do at least a minute of it, you'll have enough chemicals to keep you going for a while. Enough calming chemicals. Okay, this is 4x4 belly breathing for sleep. And only a third of teens get enough sleep, so this is important. To get to sleep, just lay down flat. Get as much view on the mattress as you can. Put a hand on your diaphragm just so you can check to see if it's working. Engage your diaphragm. Put your tongue where it belongs. Do 4x4 at least 5 times because we do it 4 times to relax, and we need more if we're going to go to sleep. Sometimes it takes up to 8 or 10 times for people, but some people do it 5 or 6. Don't fight the yawn when it comes because it will. You want to return to sleep. You got up to go winky-tink during the night and you need to go back to sleep. Well, repeat it 5+ times or until you yawn. Just do exactly the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Repeat it at least 5 or 6 times, 7 and 8, or until you yawn. Don't fight that yawn and you'll be gone. Now, what if you're bored? Well, first engage your diaphragm, then pant like a dog very rapidly this time. And keep your tongue in your mouth. Then close your mouth while continuing to pant very rapidly. And this is instant, improved energy, focus, concentration, and the cheapest way. You've just faked belly laughing. So don't do it for a really long time, but it works, baby. And by the way, you know that boredom triggers our survival reflexes. And remember, boredom is worse for teens. And fake belly laughing offsets boredom. It works to prevent you from having so much a horrible time when you're bored. Or, why fake belly laughing? You can just laugh. It immediately stops the flow of cortisol and releases a flood of calming biochemicals. Do it before you get in a vehicle. You don't have to worry about your breathing. If you're laughing, you are breathing out longer than you're breathing in. Now, that's the direction of our breath when we are laughing is the secret of laughter's healing power. It's out for longer than we breathe in. And belly laughter is a great way to help manage our survival reflexes. Belly laughter balances our biochemistry. Yeah, that's why it's the best medicine. Oh, you can whistle or sing. Both immediately stop the release of cortisol into your bloodstream and increase our calming biochemicals. Why? Because you are breathing out longer than you were breathing in. And why do you think they tell us to whistle in the dark? Well, dark is scary. we're whistling, we are building up our calming biochemicals so we're prepared for anything. Or smile, or fake it. Your brain doesn't know the difference. Even fake smiling calms us down automatically. So now we're going to match our distress management skills and habits to our temperaments. When they're all different, it makes a difference. Okay, so we have mellow, sensitive, highly sensitive, and hypersensitive. And these are all about belly breathing. Now, mellow and sensitive people do mindfulness and meditation exercises very well. But highly sensitive and hypersensitive people need a shorter time. They have less concentration and they are more impatient and they don't sit still as well. So they need 1 minute meditation by Zen Master Martin Borison. Martin Borison has an app on the phone, and you can actually use your 4x4 because he says, look, it's 1 minute meditation. You have to do it many, many times during the day. So every time you sit down, do 1 minute of meditation. And by the end of the day, you'll have the 20 or 30 minutes that the mindfulness and meditation people for mellow and sensitive had. You just do it differently. It's the same breathing practice. You just do it a minute at a time. And your 4x4, repeat it 4 times. You get 64 seconds, 4 extra seconds. Now, I don't close my eyes. I just look down. That's the only thing he asks me to do that I don't do. Well, all right, now there's mellow, sensitive, highly sensitive, and hypersensitive. These all use belly breathing. There's yoga and all the yoga practices, and there's stances. Mr. Mellow does those really well. Sensitive and highly sensitive does exactly the same belly breathing, but they need a little movement, and that's Tai Chi. And then hypersensitive, martial arts. They've got a lot of energy to get out. And managing survival reflexes is managing our energy. Okay, managing anger. If you're in a situation where you can't, you just like to scream and you can't, push the wall. Put all your energy into pushing the wall, and you push the anger into the wall and just belly breathe. And if you've got a younger sibling that has trouble managing anger, younger kids do this really well. Push the floor, stand hard. Put all your energy into pushing down on the floor with your feet and arms and push anger out and belly breathe. Or if you're in a situation where sitting can be, you're required to sit like in a classroom or in a meeting or, wherever. Do chair push-ups, and this has got a double benefit. Put all your energy into pushing down on the chair, lift your feet and legs, and belly breathe. Not only are you building your calming chemicals, but you are building a core so that somebody can kick you in the belly and you can just smile at them. It's really powerful. And you can do 4x4 then, and you're building your calming chemistry and you are building your core. It works. Or you can just run. Running works just to manage anger like crazy. And it actually builds up the calming chemical that helps deal with pain. We'll cover that in session 6. Well, those are some protective distress management skills and habits that build our resilience. And there are lots more. But we started with the ones that are most practical that you can carry with you all the time. We now know how to find our diaphragm and do it in less than 2 seconds. We know that deep, slow, regular 4-second belly breathing, diaphragmatic breathing, in and out for 4 seconds each, keeps us calm. And when we're not calm, we know what to do. Do the whale, build up your calming chemicals, or store your calming chemicals. And we know how to get to sleep and to return to sleep. And we know the benefits of laughter. And we know how to match our habits to our temperaments. And how to manage anger. That's quite an arsenal. They're all resilience boosters. We have as many as we do to protect ourselves from the sun. It's a good start. You need more, but you can start right here. The most important aspect of protective habits is that they have been practiced until they can be done without thinking, like walking. We couldn't walk when we were children. We learned to walk, and we now, if our legs work, we walk without thinking. That's a habit. And our protective habits can be more powerful than our automatic survival reflexes. Well, adolescence is about building maturity and preparing for the launch into adulthood, and I just want to make sure that you are watching out for the brick walls because there are many of them. Or at least wear a helmet. Well, thank you for joining us for Session 5, Distress Management, Distress and Mental Health. It was presented by the Kansas Traffic Safety Resource Office. They want you to be safe in a car, and they want you to have a really good life. Please join us for Session 6, the Adverse Childhood Experiences ACE Study and Trauma. Find out what the ACE study shows and why it's so important. Plus, learn a few more ways to tame and manage our survival reflexes. I'm Karen Williams, and I'm signing off.